Hello, it's me, Mike, with HPDS. This video will be a reading and a study of Leviticus chapter 7. That is Leviticus chapter 7. And before I get started, I will say the Lord's Prayer as written in Matthew 6. And it reads, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. All right. So a little bit of recap. Leviticus, we've been reading about how to make the sacrifices so far. We've gone over peace offerings, meat offerings, burnt offerings, sin offerings, trespass offerings, and so forth. And chapter 7 is continuing that with more laws regarding these offerings. And so quick look into this. Leviticus 7, more laws regarding the offerings. This particular chapter, what we're looking for, it's 38 verses long. Verses 1 through 10, we're going to go over the law of the trespass offering. Verses 11 through 17, we're going to go over the law of the peace offering. Verses 18 through 21, we're going to go over unacceptable offerings. 22 through 27, eating blood or fat is forbidden. And verses 28 through 38, we're going to see that the priests are given a portion. So remember, that's been a running theme here, is that the people are sinning, and when they sin, what ends up happening is that they have to go make these offerings to the Lord, and the priests are getting their portion as well. So keep in mind, God has taking these children of Israel from Genesis. He's taken them out of the hands of Pharaoh in Exodus, and now they are in the wilderness, and they are learning how to make these offerings to God. They're learning how to be His people. He is teaching them, and He is their leader. He is within the tabernacle. And when they make these burning offerings, remember, it's the smell is a good smell for God. God, the Lord, is there. He is receiving these, He's smelling them, and so forth. So, as per usual, what I do in these studies is I will read the chapter 7, all the way through. And then afterwards, with the help of the Holy Spirit, I reread it line by line and just go over what it's get more into depth on what it is discussing. So Leviticus chapter 7, and it reads, Likewise, this is the law of the trespass offering. It is most holy. In the place where they killed the burnt offering shall they kill the trespass offering, and the blood thereof shall he sprinkle round about upon the altar. And he shall offer of it all the fat thereof, the rump and the fat that covereth the inwards, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is on them, which is by the flanks, and the caul that is above the liver, with the kidneys it shall he take away. And the priest shall burn them upon the altar for an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a trespass offering. Every male among the priests shall eat thereof. It shall be eaten in the holy place. It is most holy. As the sin offering is, so is the trespass offering. There is one law for them. The priest that maketh atonement therewith shall have it. And the priest that offereth any man's burnt offering, even the priest shall have to himself the skin of the burnt offering which he hath offered. And all the meat offering that is baken in the oven, and all that is dressed in the frying pan, and in the pan, shall be the priest's that offereth it. And every meat offering mingled with oil and dry shall all the sons of Aaron have, one as much as another. And this is the law of the sacrifice of peace offerings, which he shall offer unto the Lord. If he offer it for thanksgiving, then he shall offer with the sacrifice of thanksgiving unleavened cakes mingled with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil, and cakes mingled with oil of fine flour fried. Besides the cakes, he shall offer for his offering leavened bread with the sacrifice of thanksgiving of his peace offerings. And if he shall offer one out of the whole oblation for an heave offering unto the Lord, and it shall be the priest that sprinkleth the blood of the peace offerings. And the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offerings for thanksgiving shall be eaten the same day that it is offered. He shall not leave any of it until the morning. But if the sacrifice of his offering be a vow or a voluntary offering, it shall be eaten the same day that he offereth his sacrifice, and on the morrow also the remainder of it shall be eaten. But the remainder of the flesh of the sacrifice on the third day shall be burnt with fire. And if any of the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offerings be eaten at all on the third day, it shall not be accepted, neither shall it be imputed unto him that offereth it. It shall be an abomination, and the soul that eateth of it shall bear his iniquity. And the flesh that toucheth any unclean thing shall not be eaten, it shall be burnt with fire. And as for the flesh, all that be clean shall eat thereof. But the soul that eateth of the flesh of the sacrifice of the peace offerings, that pertain unto the Lord, having his uncleanness upon him, even that soul shall be cut off from his people. Moreover, the soul that shall touch any unclean thing, as the uncleanness of man, or any unclean beast, or any abominable unclean thing, and eat of the flesh of the sacrifice of peace offerings which pertain unto the Lord, even that soul shall be cut off from his people. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, Ye shall eat no manner of fat of ox, or of sheep, or of goat, and the fat of the beast that dieth of itself, and the fat of that which is torn with beasts may be used in any other use, but ye shall in no wise eat of it. For whosoever eateth the fat of the beast of which men offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, even the soul that eateth it shall be cut off from his people. Moreover, ye shall eat no manner of blood, whether it be of fowl or of beast, in any of your dwellings. Whatsoever soul it shall be that eateth any manner of blood, even that soul shall be cut off from his people. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, He that offereth the sacrifice of his peace offerings unto the Lord shall bring his oblation unto the Lord of the sacrifice of his peace offerings. His own hand shall bring the offerings of the Lord made by fire. The fat with the beast it shall he bring, that the breast may be waved for a wave offering before the Lord. And the priest shall burn the fat upon the altar, but the breast shall be Aaron's and his sons'. And the right shoulder shall ye give unto the priest for an heave offering of the sacrifices of your peace offerings. He among the sons of Aaron that offereth the blood of the peace offerings and the fat shall have the right shoulder for his part. For the wave breast and the heave shoulder have I taken of the children of Israel from off the sacrifices of their peace offerings, and have given them unto Aaron the priest and unto his sons by a statute forever among the children of Israel. This is the portion of the anointing of Aaron and the anointing of his sons out of the offerings of the Lord made by fire in the day when he presented them to minister unto the Lord in the priest's office, which the Lord commanded to be given them of the children of Israel in the day that he anointed them, by a statute forever throughout their generations. This is the law of the burnt offering, of the meat offering, and of the sin offering, and of the trespass offering, and of the consecrations, and of the sacrifice of the peace offerings, which the Lord commanded Moses in Mount Sinai in the day that he commanded the children of Israel to offer their oblations unto the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai. So that is Leviticus 7 in its entirety. It's a little bit longer than the previous chapters. The previous chapters haven't been so long. but it has a bunch of rules and laws regarding these offerings that the children of Israel are making. So once again, what I'll do is I'll go line by line, and we'll read this line by line, and we'll kind of dissect what it is that is going on here. And so for that, one more time, I will show what we're looking for here. This is the outline 1 through 10. We read about the law of the trespass offering. We read about the law of the peace offering. We read about some unacceptable offerings, and we read about eating blood and fat being forbidden. And we also read the end about how the priests were given their portion. So let me one more time get this set up. And let's read that here. Likewise, this is the law of the trespass offering. So clearly this is referring to, it's an expansion of chapter 6. Chapter 6 talked about kind of it being the sin. So this is more in addition to the trespass offering. Remember, it's most holy, so they've got these rules for it. It's like a court to us, what we would know as the court system. So in the place where they killed the burnt offering shall they kill the trespass offering, and the blood thereof shall he sprinkle round about upon the altar. So again, this is the tabernacle complex. You notice that it has got north, east, south, and west. So it was specific. They are coming in from the east. And right here, this what you see, this little red line, that indicates the gate. This is the entrance. So at this entrance is where they would kill these sacrifices. And this is the altar that they would burn these sacrifices, these offerings at. And so, of course, they would kill the offering, sprinkle the blood around about this altar right here. And he shall offer of it all the fat thereof, the rump, and the fat that covereth the inward. So this is basically the good portions of this offering. You get the good portions of the animal, the rump, and you also get the fat that covers the inwards. And you offer all of that. And you also offer the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them, which is by the flanks, and the caul that is above the liver with the kidneys, it shall he take away. So you're getting all these parts of the offering, whether it be the lamb or from the so it's either from the flock or from the cattle. I guess I forget what the other word they use it, from the flock or from the let's see. But anyway, so you're getting these innards and you're offering all that part, and the priest shall burn them upon the altar for an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a trespass offering. So he's burning the priest. So basically, if you had to make this, you sinned, you made a trespass, you wanted to go, you went to the Lord to be forgiven, you gave your trespass offering, and right there at the tabernacle complex, you meet a priest, and the priest, you put your hand on it, they kill the offering, the priest comes in and does all of this for you, okay? And every male among the priests shall eat thereof. It shall be eaten in the holy place. So the rump goes to the fire, but we're gonna see that the priests get the breast and the shoulders. What it said was what we read later on. But the priests get to eat of this. So remember, the thing is, you're making your offering to God, but God is giving the priests their portions for doing his work. They're doing this work. Remember, they're doing that work all for you, for the people. As the sin offering is, so is the trespass offering. There is one law for them. The priest that maketh atonement therewith shall have it. So basically, remember, there's like 1 million people in this camp. So there's a bunch of Levites, and I don't remember the numbers, but there were numbers given, I believe, back in Exodus. And there will be more numbers given, I'm sure, as we go on. There's a whole book after Leviticus that's called Numbers. So we'll also read about the numbers there. But there should be roughly about 1 million people. There's like 600,000 men or so There's a bunch of people. All these people have their own issues that they got to work through. And there's a bunch of priests. So every priest, obviously, it's going all day and all night. Remember, that was the whole law that we read in the last chapter, is that all day long and all night long, they have to have this fire going. So they are doing this all day long. So the priests are coming. They have I'm sure they would be taking their shifts. They would have, that would have been part of their duties, is to kind of figure out how they were doing it all. They were scheduling it. They were, organizing themselves and so forth. But whoever was there, the priest that actually made the offering, the priest that maketh atonement therewith shall have it. So they're the ones, they would make the sacrifice for one person, probably had another priest come in, do the next guy, and so forth and so forth. Excuse me. And the priest that offereth any man's burnt offering, even the priest shall have to himself the skin of the burnt offering, which he hath offered. So keep in mind, they come to make this burnt offering. The priest gets to keep the skin. So that's how they're making their wealth over here. And that's what I've made mention, is that what's going on is that the people are committing sins and trespasses and so forth. And this is in turn bringing some sort of wealth to the priest in the form of their eating and even having the skins here. So they are getting some sort of benefit, and that's what I say is ultimately it's going to be, they're going to take advantage of it by the time Jesus comes around. So now keep in mind, this is written much before Jesus comes around. Jesus has not entered the stage yet. We are only in Leviticus. It's the third book of the Bible that has 66 books, and the New Testament doesn't start until the 40th chapter. So Jesus Christ doesn't come into the picture for, I don't really know, but it's like 1,000 years, 1,000 to 1,500 years or so after this. It's like 1,000 years later. And by that point, this civilization has basically, the priests, who are the ruling class, they become the leaders. They're not listening to God anymore. They're not doing his will. They're doing whatever they want. But they are basically doing the same thing, where the people they sin, and then they have to come and they have to make sacrifices. But at that point, the priests are using it just to further their own wealth. And that is not what God is teaching them, because obviously he would prefer them not to be sinning in the first place. So he would prefer his priests to be lean and thin, and that's why they do so much fasting, because it would be better that they fast and never had anything, because then the people would actually be doing good instead of sinning all the time. But the priests, by the time Jesus come around, they're just making the people sin all the time, so to further their own wealth. Because to say, to take a saying from today, they're skimming off the top. They're embezzling is what they're doing by the time Jesus comes around. But let's see. So they get to keep the skin. So and they get to also do the eating. That's the one that they get to eat it. They got to eat it in the holy place. So this is where they're working. They get to come in here. That's why they come in here, and this is where they eat, and they do their work out here. They clean up, and then they're allowed to come in here and eat. That's how the priests are working. Let's see. Then moving on, and all the meat offering that is baking in the oven, and all that is dressed in the frying pan, and in the pan, shall be the priests that offereth it. So again, that's what all this. Remember, they would get the meat, and they would get the flour, and they'd put it on the meat, and they put it in the frying pan or in the pan, and they bake it, and all of that is what the priest gets to eat. It shall be the priest that offer it. So that's what I'm saying. The individual comes in, they've sinned, they make their offering, the priest gets it, and they get to come back here and eat it. That's the whole gist of this operation here. And that is, remember, 1 through 10, the law of the trespass. That's the gist of the trespass offering. That's the gist of the sin offering. It's one law. It's the same thing. That's what it was. That's what it read. So now we're moving into the peace offering, from 11 through 17. Oh, look, I missed the verse right here. And every meat offering mingled with oil and dry shall all the sons of Aaron's have, one as much as another. So you see, they're working together as the children of Aaron to be the priests, and it's going day and night. There's a million people. There's a lot to be done. There's a lot to go around. That's what's going on here. And this is the law of the sacrifice of peace offerings, which he shall offer unto the Lord. If he offer it for a thanksgiving, then he shall offer with the sacrifice of thanksgiving unleavened cakes mingled with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil, and cakes mingled with oil, of fine flour fried. So now you've got peace offerings, and peace offerings aren't really sin offerings. Sin offerings, you do something bad. Peace offerings is clearly you're asking God for something for peace. You say, let's have peace between us. Don't do bad things. Do good things for me, Lord. That's kind of what this is. You come and you give to the Lord for a peace offering. And if you're offering it, obviously, for Thanksgiving, so you've come to the Lord, you've recognized that the Lord is responsible for good things, and so you want to give thanks to the Lord. They were taken out of Egypt. Remember, they were held in pretty hard bondage. They were doing all that work, and they weren't getting any time off. And I remember also making the same, basically, they were working and not getting any time off. Not so much as 3 days would they get them. They didn't want to give them that long weekend. That's what Pharaoh was so adamant about it. But anyway, so when they give Thanksgiving, they're thankful. They come, they give this sacrifice along with unleavened cakes, with oil, with unleavened wafers anointed with oil, cakes. You fry it, all of this is fried, and then on top of that, besides the cake, he shall offer for his offering leavened bread with the sacrifice of thanksgiving of his peace offerings. So you come to give thanks to Lord. Remember, this is pretty much just offering thanks. Keep that in mind, what that really means, because you're not getting anything out of this other than thanking the Lord. You're thanking the Lord by giving him things in the form of this food that goes to the priest, because we keep reading right here. You're giving, not only that, but you're giving leavened bread finally, which is something that he's been avoiding leaven. He's been saying give unleavened. But when you come to give thanks, suddenly there's some leavened bread involved. And of it he shall offer one out of the whole oblation for an heave offering unto the Lord, and it shall be the priests that sprinkleth the blood of the peace offerings. So it's the same, it's kind of the same thing. You come, you're giving thanks, you're offering it, you're giving the bread, you're giving all these things, you're frying it, and and part of it goes to the Lord, and let's see, and of it he shall offer the whole oblation for an heave offering, and it shall be the priest that sprinkled the blood of the. So of course the you're giving it to the Lord, but the Lord is giving it to the priest. And the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offerings for thanksgiving shall be eaten the same day that it is offered. He shall not leave any of it until the morning. So you come in, you tell your priest, I'm giving this as a thanksgiving. Instead of you come in and you say, I've sinned, priest. The Lord needs to forgive me. Here's my sin offering. Here's my trespass offering. No, this is coming saying, I want to thank the Lord. Here's my, here's some thanksgiving sacrifice to the priest. The priest needs to know, obviously, that it's a sacrifice for thanksgiving and not a sin offering, obviously. And because of that, keep that in mind. He's got to eat it the same day that it is offered. He's not allowed to leave any of it to the morning. That's the priest. That's on the priest. He's got it for that day, but he doesn't get to eat any of it in the morning. But if the sacrifice of his offering be a vow or a voluntary offering, it shall be eaten the same day that he offereth his sacrifice, and on the morrow also the remainder of it shall be eaten. So now we've got right here, it's not a Thanksgiving. You could also just be like a vow. You could have been a person that said, just to kind of go over, I don't know, stereotypical, like in television, for example, you got the stereotypical, somebody's in trouble and they say, oh God, if you do this for me, I swear I'll never do this again, or I'll never do that again. And that would be kind of the same thing. It would be like, Lord, if you let this happen, then I'll make a sacrifice of this cow or whatever. And if that's the case, they'd come and they'd tell them, you like, hey, I made this vow that if this happened, I'd sacrifice this goat. And you tell the priest that, and the priest says, all right, I get it. I get to eat it tomorrow too. So if it's just for Thanksgiving, you can only eat it that day. But if you come and you say it's actually a voluntary offering, or it's a vow that I made, it's pretty much the same. It's a voluntary, or it's a vow. You might be this kind of, it might be like, oh, I know that we're not sinning so much. It could be, like I said, if people weren't sinning so much, it'd be obvious that these priests were going hungry. So you might say, oh, I'm going to make a voluntary because these guys are looking pretty hungry because the people are doing well. They're not sinning so much. So let them have some for today and tomorrow. So that's kind of how this is going. But the remainder of the flesh of the sacrifice on the third day shall be burnt with fire. So if it's one of those kinds of vows, or then they were able to eat it for 2 days. If it was out of Thanksgiving, they could only eat it for 1 day. But no matter what, the third day it had to be burnt with fire if it was a vow. So that's the peace offering. So keep that in mind. It's different. That's different than the sin and the trespass offering. You're coming and you're just giving it to the Lord for no real reason other than Thanksgiving, or because you made a vow that you would do it. And again, the central thing being that you need to tell the priest. The priest needs to know, obviously, what kind of sacrifice it is, so that he knows whether he can eat it tomorrow or not. Because that's on him. And that priest needs to keep in mind that, that's when it becomes, if any of it gets eaten on the third day. Let's see, moving on, verses 18 through 21, these are the unacceptable offerings. And if any of the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offering be eaten at all on the third day, it shall not be accepted. So that's on the priest. If the priest doesn't keep track of this, it's not going to be accepted. And neither shall it be imputed unto him that offereth it. It shall be an abomination, and the soul that eateth of it shall bear his iniquity. So this is important, because the priest and the individual making the offering need to work together. They need to make sure that they know why they're offering it and so forth, because if not, it's not going to be accepted. God doesn't accept this. If you made a vow and then you take it to the priest, and the priest ends up keeping that food for 3 days and eats it on the third day, all of a sudden that vow is not fulfilled. It's like you've broken your word. You are imperfect. You've sinned. All of a sudden you've sinned, and you need to make a sin offering. So keep in mind, that's how this is working. The priests need to be on the ball too. Everybody needs to know what's going on. The priest needs to know why the sacrifice is being made, and that person needs to recognize that priest, if he's at the mercy of the priest. If the priest doesn't do this right, then he's sinned. The individual becomes a sinner. The priest can make a sinner out of the sacrificer here. So that's interesting, and that's why I say ultimately they end up messing this whole system up by the time Jesus comes around, because people just start they just start being wicked. They start forgetting about God. They forget that God's watching. They don't believe that God is there, because you keep in mind he put himself in this holy of holy places, and it's kind of a small ark if you think about it. It's like 3 feet by 3 feet or so it's not very big, and there he is, and he's some entity that they don't quite understand yet, because he's not in the form of a person. He's in the form of what we would call natural phenomenon. He's some sort of natural phenomenon. He's wind. But by the time Jesus comes around, they've already forgotten about him. They don't listen to him. They don't think he's a person. They don't think he is real. They don't really care about him. They're not doing his work and so forth. And that's just important to remember because they had these responsibilities. And just knowing people in general, in my own day and age, it would be easy to realize that this is a job. These people had a job to do. They were court work. They were working at the court. They were responsible for making sure, you'd probably want to make checklists, and you'd have people doing shifts, and you'd have people that, or maybe you'd you'd assign priests to different people based off of their clan, based off their families. And so, there'd be structure going on, and they had to keep that structure going on. And just knowing people, like at a corporation, at a company, any job that you might have today, people will slack off. People will do what is wrong. And that's just kind of what's going on here. And that is exactly what Jesus mentions. And he tells us later that if the law could have saved us, the law would have saved us. But it didn't save us because the people would not follow the law. And so that's why we have faith on Jesus Christ and so forth. Let's see. So keeping that in mind, in verse 19, did I read this one? And the flesh that toucheth any unclean thing shall not be eaten. It shall be burnt with fire. As for the flesh, all that be clean shall eat thereof. So also, you can't let this meat, anything that touches anything unclean, you can't eat that. So you can't eat it on the third day. If it touches anything unclean, you can't eat it. But if the soul that eateth of the flesh of the sacrifice of peace offerings that pertain unto the Lord, having his uncleanness upon him, even that soul shall be cut off from his people. So now we've got some more things that could happen. So now we've got a priest that you need to keep, once again, you need to pay attention to what's going on, because if somebody eats the flesh, if he's unclean, so remember there's other things, not just this, there's other things back in Exodus, I believe, that made you unclean. And if you became unclean and then you ate of the peace offerings, then you would be cut off from your people. And remember, even such things as touching a dead body, a dead carcass, so these priests should be staying in this holy place, because if they start wandering off from this complex, and, maybe they might end up touching a dead animal or dead, then they become unclean. And if they come back and they're unclean and they go ahead and they offer a sacrifice and they end up eating it while they're unclean, they're supposed to be cut off from their people. That means that's where you start putting people in jail. They're cut off from his people. You put them in jail. You cut them off. You confine them. This person has done wrong. This person has done bad. They're cut off. That's what God considered a punishable offense by prison right there. That's imprisonment of some sort, if not banishment. That's imprisonment or banishment right there. And that's just for being unclean and eating. And being unclean, like I said, you could touch a dead body. You could, if you were, for example, if you touched, if he ejaculated, for example, so if you had sex, so if you had sex that day, you were unclean until the evening. So any of these priests, if they had sex in one day, then they were done for the day. They couldn't work anymore. They had to go clean themselves, and they could not eat anymore. They were not allowed to eat any of these offerings. So if a priest became unclean, that was it for the day. They were done eating. And if they didn't, oh my goodness, they were cut off from their people. So it's getting pretty strict here. That's what we would perhaps consider strict in our day and age, because of course people, they're not, some people don't even wash their hands sometimes, they'll go, touch all kinds of things, do all kinds of things, bad things, sinful things. And if you do something sinful, you've basically made yourself unclean. And then all of a sudden, to be unclean and then eat, no problem. Oh, you've had sex today? Go ahead, and then you go eat at a restaurant, at a fast food restaurant, whatever. You've eaten, you make dinner, you've had sex, you go, and that's both people, the woman and the female. The male and the female. They've made themselves unclean, and then they go and eat, and then all of a sudden God's saying that's something that's punishable by prison. And like I said, that's not something that we would consider normal. We would consider that harsh. We would consider that, like I said, strict. This is where it's getting strict. Moreover, the soul that toucheth any unclean thing, as the uncleanness of man, or any unclean beast, or any abominable unclean thing, and eat of the flesh of the sacrifice of peace offerings, which pertain unto the Lord, even that soul shall be cut off from his people. So keep that in mind. That's all part of that right there. You could be cut off. These priests, they had some strict, they needed to keep track of whether they were unclean or not, because they could be cut off from their people just for being unclean and eating, whether they knew it or not. Remember, God said whether they knew it or not, they'd become unclean if they did these things. And the Lord spake unto Moses, and now we're moving on 22 through 27. We're going to go ahead and read the eating of blood or fat forbidden. So now we're going to read about how blood and fat are forbidden. Okay, and he says, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, ye shall eat no manner of fat of ox or of sheep or of a goat. So no fat. You can't eat any fat. To all of the children of Israel, not just the priests, all of them. And the fat of the beast that dieth of itself, and the fat of that which is torn with beasts, may be used in any other use, but ye shall in no wise eat of it. So again, you can't eat of the fat. You could use it, but you can't eat of it. For whosoever eateth the fat of the beast, of which men offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, even the soul that eateth it shall be cut off from his people. So again, how strict it could be if you eat the fat out of the. So somebody comes to make an offering, and you leave the fat on it, and you eat the fat. Well, then you should be cut off from your people. That's, like I said, that's jail or banishment. You're cut off from your people. Get out of here. Go get out of here. That's how strict it was for them. So they had to really be paying attention to what they're doing. They had to make this food properly. Moreover, you shall eat no manner of blood, whether it be fowl or beast, in any of your dwellings. Whatsoever soul it be that eateth any manner of blood, even that soul shall be cut off from his people. And I feel like this should be a little bit more, even in today's world, drinking blood or eating blood is a health hazard. Not just any kind of blood, any animal blood of any type is a health hazard, which is, I find strange, because I know there's even something where people eat blood sausages of some sort, and that seems, I've never eaten them, I've never seen them. It sounds gross, but it sounds like they put blood and then they so it's kind of strange that people do that. Obviously, we know the stories of what are known as vampires. Vampires eat blood, so it should be pretty obvious. I feel like in this day and age, that touching blood, eating blood is a health hazard, and we shouldn't do it. But of course, people have to be reminded, because there is weird obsessions with blood. People have, and they do weird, wicked things with blood, and God is telling you that there's something about it. You can't eat it. If you eat it, you're going to be cut off from your people. It's jail. And like I said, this is what's known as, we would consider this, I would think, strict in our day and age, that people tell you what, you can't eat blood. People eat raw steaks all the time and eat that blood. Not raw, but they eat them more rare, I guess you would call it, rare. In fact, when I was younger, I used to do it as well. I used to eat and it would oftentimes, you could still see blood. And so it's pretty obvious that people still do it, even though it should be obvious that you shouldn't do it, because it's, you could get sick and get diseases, and it's, and God himself was telling you not to do it. But blood and fat prohibited, so keep that in mind. So moving on, now we've got the last bit of this chapter, 28 to 38, the priests given their portion. So obviously we've already been reading now. They've been getting a bit of their portion, but let's go ahead and read it more. The Lord spake unto Moses, and he said, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, he that offereth the sacrifice of his peace offerings unto the Lord shall bring his oblation unto the Lord of the sacrifice of his peace offerings. So of course, whoever offers the sacrifice brings it to the Lord. Okay, so you're doing it yourself. You're not telling someone else to go say, hey, take this goat for me to go make this peace offering. You got to come do it yourself. His own hands shall bring the offerings of the Lord made by fire. The fat with the breast, it shall he bring, that the breast may be waved for a wave offering before the Lord. So he's saying that, hey, so when you make these offerings, actually, you yourself, you're killing you're making you're putting it in the fire, and you're waiting around. You got to stick around for this, it sounds like. Then you bring it, the fat with the breast, you bring all your part, you wave it before the Lord. So it looks like you're bringing it over here and you're waving it to God. So that's where he's in this tent right here. This is another gate, and this is another door right here, another enclosure. And you come in here and you're waving it right here at the altar of incense, it seems like. So anybody you're doing it, you're bringing it. That's what you're doing right here. You're bringing your oblation. You're bringing that portion. His own hand shall bring the offering. Let's see. He that breast wave offering. And the priest shall burn the fat upon the altar. So right here, you give it to now so you've come and you've waved it, and the priest is taking it from you, and then he's putting it on the altar. But the breast shall be Aaron's and his sons. So you bring the fat, you bring the breast, and they're taking the breast, but the fat goes on the altar. And the right shoulder shall ye give unto the priest for an heave offering of the sacrifices of your peace offering. So you're also giving the right shoulder to the priest. So the priest is out of your offering. The priest is getting the breast and the shoulder. And also remember the skin. He was getting the skin. For the wave breast and the heave shoulder have I taken of the children of Israel from off the sacrifices of their peace offerings, and have given them unto Aaron the priest and unto his sons by a statute forever among the children of Israel. This is the portion of the anointing of Aaron and the anointing of his sons out of the offerings of the Lord made by fire in the day when he presented them to minister unto the Lord in the priest's office. So that's what God is saying. All this, the big thing that I was getting at, the big main point, is that people are making sacrifices for one reason or another, and the priests are getting a portion out of that. Now they had specific portions that they were supposed to take. A lot of that may not translate properly into today's age, because obviously there were so many people. They would have been doing so many sacrifices. They would have known what portions that they themselves were to take. And unless you're a butcher today, you might not understand these portions or these parts and why these parts are better. So unless for eating and so forth, but they did have that. They knew what they were supposed to take and what they were supposed to give, and that's what's important, because they don't keep doing that and they don't keep track of it properly. And they were supposed to be, this was supposed to be organized. They should have been organized. They, like I said, 1 million people they were working with. They had to be organized. And the sons of Aaron were the priests, and they were basically taking their portion from the people. And they had to make their fires, and they had to keep them fires, and they had to minister unto the Lord in the priest's office, which the Lord commanded to be given them of the children of Israel in the day that he anointed them by a statute forever throughout their generations. So this is the law. He's saying it. This is your government. This is how I am working as your king, as your Lord, and so forth. This is the law of the burnt offering, of the meat offering, and of the sin offering, and of the trespass offering, and of the consecrations, and of the sacrifice of the peace offerings, which the Lord commanded Moses in Mount Sinai in the day that he commanded the children of Israel to offer their oblations unto the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai. And remember, like I said, they're in the wilderness. This is after Egypt. They're at the Mount Sinai. Remember that mountain was there was lightning and thunder and earthquaking, and the whole mountain was on fire, and Moses went up it. And remember, Joshua and them guarded the mountain down at the base, and they were told nobody, not even a living creature, is allowed on that mountain or it would die. And they all saw that, and they were all waiting around, and that's where they got instructions on how to build the tabernacle. They also got all these instructions on how to make their sacrifices, and God was telling them, this is how the government works. I am your king, I am your Lord. This is how it works. So, but that was Leviticus chapter 7. And I will go ahead and end this video here. Yeah, chapter 7. Keeping in place with all these laws here. So, I will continue on later with, chapter 8 and so forth, and see where this continues on. But that's just a quick recap, laws and how the priests get a portion of what the people are making sacrifices of. So that is what I feel is the big bullet point of what we've been reading from the first few chapters of Leviticus, up until chapter 7. So I'll go ahead and say what I always say. If you please like the video and subscribe to the channel for future chapter by chapter Bible study. And I pray that we all bless Jesus Christ, and may Jesus Christ bless all of us. Amen.